When you're dividing decimals by decimals, there is one step that you're going to take before you are able to divide just like we did on yesterday. The first thing that you have to do is you have to move the decimal in the divisor. Remember, that's the number that is outside of the house in order to make it into a whole number. You cannot divide by a decimal, so we have to write an equivalent division problem that uses a whole number as a divisor instead of a decimal. However many spaces you moved your decimal in your divisor, you have to do the same for your dividend. So you're going to move the decimal the same number of spaces in the dividend. That's that number that we refer to as being inside the house. Then it's just like what we did yesterday. You move the decimal up and you solve the problem. So let's look at an example. So if I was going to set this problem up, I would have 13 95/100 divided by 3.1. Well, I need to make 3.1 a whole number, so I'm going to swoop my decimal one place to the right. Since I swooped one place in my divisor, I have to do the same thing in my dividend. So now my decimal point moves here. And then I can rewrite my problem so that way it makes sense and it's nice and neat and I don't make a silly mistake. 1 cannot be divided by 31, so I'm going to put an X just as a placeholder there. 13 cannot be divided by 31, so again, I'm going to put a placeholder. 139 can be divided by 31, and it would go in 4 times. 4 times 31 would be 124. Subtract, and I have 15. And I'm going to take that decimal and I'm going to bring it straight up into my quotient. You'll notice how nice and neat and straight I have all of my numbers, so that way I don't make a careless mistake. Now I can bring down this 5. 155 divided by 31 would be 5. 5 times 31 is 155. Subtract and we have nothing. I don't need these 2 X's here. I just use those to make sure that I didn't make a mistake. And I end up with 4 5/10 as my answer. So let's look at another problem. 16.24 is going to be divided by 1400ths. This 0 that's in front of the decimal point, it has no value. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave that off. This will be 0.14, and I'm going to swoop twice this time because I have 2 digits behind the decimal and I want to make it a whole number. So since I swooped twice in my divisor, I'm going to swoop twice in my dividend. My problem is now, let me make that a little bit neater, 1,624 divided by 14. And I'm going to start here. 1 divided by 14, can't do it. 16 divided by 14 would be 1. When I subtract, I have 2 left. 22 divided by 14 is again 1. Subtract and I have 8, and then I'm going to bring down this 4. 84 divided by 14, well, let's see how many times. I believe that's going to be 6. And that leaves me with 84. So I end up with a whole number here of 116. This one's going to have a little bit of a trick to it. Let's go ahead and get it set up. Again, I'm going to leave off that 0 because it really has no value. And look, you'll notice I have to swoop 2 times in my divisor, which then means I have to swoop 2 times in my dividend. So I have this divot here with nothing in it. I'm going to add a 0. So now my problem is 9,660 divided by 42. Well, 9 can't be divided by 42. 96 divided by 42 would be 2, and that's going to give me 84. Then I'm subtracting and I get 12 and I bring down this 6. 126 divided by 42 is going to be 3. 3 times 42 is 126. Subtract and I have 0. Don't forget you have that 0 at the end, which means you have to keep going. 0 divided by 42 would be 0. So our answer is 230. Be very careful. Remember, all of your division skills come into play.